Hi, this is Cologne, and over there you can see the top of the Cologne Cathedral. It's a pretty impressive building, and it contains the bones of the three holy kings who visited Jesus and brought him presents. But that's a story for another video. This video is about this church. It's called St. Ursula. And I have to show you something inside. This room is called the Golden Chamber. It contains the relics that are stored in this church. You see these hats made of wood? They are called reliquaries. Each of these reliquaries contains the bones of one saint. The reliquary presents the saint, and often some symbols are shown linked to the death of the saint or to something that is important regarding the saint. Now let's have a look on the wall, and we see that there are not only reliquaries, but also the walls have a very special kind of ornamentation. Each bone used here is the bone of a saint, normally of a martyr. In former times there were even more relics of saints in this church. I read that the main chamber of the church contained the remains of 300 people. Now, this is a vast amount of saints, even for Catholics. A normal Catholic church has relics of one saint. A big church may have the relics of a dozen or some dozens of saints. But how is it possible that this church has the relics of several hundreds of saints? This is the story of St. Ursula. Well, at least it's one of a lot of variants. Ursula was a Christian princess, either in Brittany or in Britain. She lived in the 4th or 5th century, and she had to marry a pagan. She was quite reluctant, obviously, so she demanded to go on a pilgrimage before her wedding. This was granted, and so she sailed off for Rome. She was accompanied by 11 virgins, says the legend. The name of the future husband, by the way, is Conan Mariadoc. I have really no idea if there was some kind of barbarian hobbit relationship. So Ursula sailed off with the virgins, and they went to Rome, met the Pope, and on their way back they came to Cologne. Cologne was under siege by the Huns back then, and the leader of the Huns obviously wanted to marry her, and when she refuted, she and the other virgins were massacred. And after that, angels came from heaven, and all the Huns ran away, so the city was safe. The church of St. Ursula was built on what was said was the burial site of Ursula and the virgins. With time the legend grew, and the virgins got names when they were anonymous before, such names as Rakia, Gregoria, Martyr, Taula, Britula, Saturnia, Rabakia, Saturia, Palladia. And now the people noticed that when some construction work was done around the church, always new skeletons were found. So in the 9th century, some people thought, well, can it be that it wasn't 11 virgins but more? From 1106 on, the people were sure about it. The city wall was new constructed then, and close to St. Ursula, tons of skeletons were found. In fact, this was an ancient Roman graveyard, but the people back then didn't know about it. And I think they did not want to know. Now, there was an old scripture which told about the 11 virgins. The scripture was written in Latin abbreviations. These abbreviations read as Undecim Martyris Virginis, which means 11 virgin martyrs. But the people found a creative new interpretation of that abbreviations. It was Undecim Milia Virginis, which means 11,000 virgins. And so from then on it was said that Ursula went on the pilgrimage with 11,000 virgins, and all 11,000 virgins were killed by the Huns. Wow. At that time, relics were a very important economic factor, and by the 11,000 virgins and Ursula, Cologne became a major focus of pilgrimage itself. Ursula and her virgins became incredibly popular all over Europe. There were a lot of churches, universities that took Ursula as her patrona, and even Columbus named the Virgin Islands after the virgins of Ursula. Of course, every important church wanted to have some relics of these virgins, and this started a kind of relic industry in Cologne. The problem was that from 1215 on, selling of relics was prohibited by the Catholic Church, and so the clergy of Cologne had to find a loophole, and they found it. They did not sell the relics, but they sold the reliquaries that contained the relics. Until 1393, more than 12,000 of these reliquaries were sold all over Europe. More than 3,000 exist until today. This business became that huge that the city council of Cologne feared for Cologne's status as a pilgrimage city. The city council asked the Pope for help, and in 1393 the Pope prohibited the further selling of relics from the virgins. The city arms of Cologne still symbolize the virgins of Ursula. Each black dot on this Hermelin cape, royal Hermelin cape, stands for 1,000 virgins, or as they say today again, for one virgin. In fact, the custodian of the Golden Chamber became a bit angry when I asked him about the 11,000 virgins.